Director Yoon Hyejin stared at the stack of diplomatic requests covering her desk. In the 3 months since the Galactic Council officially recognized humanity as a cooperative apex predator species, her office had received over 200 formal applications for alliance agreements. "Ma'am," said her Assistant Secretary Kim Young-soo, "the Altarian Trade Consortium is requesting an immediate meeting. They're offering exclusive mining rights to 17 star systems in exchange for human protection of their merchant fleets." Yoon. Hyejin rubbed her temples. She had been Earth's Director of Interspecies Relations for 5 years, handling occasional contact with the few alien species humanity had encountered. Now she was trying to manage relationships with hundreds of different civilizations. "What about the Crystalline Collective?" she asked. "They're offering to share their energy generation technology if humans will mediate a territorial dispute with the gaseous nebula entities. The nebula entities are requesting human arbitration too," Kim Young-soo continued, "but they're offering biotechnology in exchange." This was the new reality. News of humanity's successful cooperation with the Chthoni had spread throughout the galaxy faster than anyone expected. Species that had been locked in conflicts for centuries were suddenly interested in human-mediated solutions. "The problem," Yoon Hyejin told her staff during their morning briefing, "is that everyone expects us to solve their problems. They think because we're apex predators who chose cooperation, we can make everyone else cooperate too." Her chief analyst, Dr. Ryu Taehyung, looked up from his datapad. "Actually, ma'am, I think that's exactly what's happening, but not in the way they expect." "Explain." "Most of these conflicts exist because both sides are afraid of losing to the other. But if humans guarantee the security of both sides, they can negotiate from a position of safety instead of fear." Yoon Hyejin considered this. "So we're not just mediating disputes, we're providing security guarantees that make negotiation possible." "Exactly. And that's why everyone wants to ally with us. They get access to apex predator protection without having to submit to apex predator domination." This insight proved crucial when the Drakmori delegation arrived at Earth. The Drakmori were living legends in galactic civilization. They were ancient, powerful, and had been the undisputed apex species for over 100,000 years. They looked like classical European dragons, massive, winged, covered in scales that shifted color with their emotions. Each individual Drakmori was easily 50 feet long and possessed intelligence that made most other species seem primitive. When High Patriarch Vexmore's ship entered Earth's solar system, every human military installation went on high alert. This wasn't a diplomatic visit. It was an inspection by the galaxy's ultimate apex predator. President Lee Kyung-min met with his Security Council in the underground command center beneath Seoul. "What do we know about Drakmori intentions?" he asked. General Park Seong-hyun, Earth's top military commander, looked grim. "Intelligence suggests they're concerned about humanity's rapid rise in galactic politics. Some factions want to test our strength directly. Test how? Unknown. But Drakmori have destroyed entire species they considered threats to galactic stability." Defense Minister Nam Yoonji leaned forward. "Sir, our entire fleet wouldn't last 10 minutes against a full Drakmori assault. They have technology that's older than human civilization." President Lee was quiet for a moment. "What does Director Yoon think?" Yoon Hyejin had been studying Drakmori psychology for weeks, preparing for this moment. "I think they're curious, not hostile. Drakmori have been apex predators for so long that they've never encountered true equals. They want to understand what we represent. And what do we represent? Change. For 100,000 years, galactic civilization has been stable because the Drakmori enforce stability. Now humans are creating new forms of cooperation between species. That changes everything." The meeting between President Lee and High Patriarch Vexmore took place on neutral ground, Nexus Prime Station. But the circumstances were anything but neutral. Vexmore was enormous even for a Drakmori, his scales a deep red gold that spoke of great age and power. When he spoke, his voice resonated through the meeting chamber like controlled thunder. "President Lee of the humans, I have come to understand what your species represents to the galactic order." Lee Kyung-min had prepared for this moment. but facing a creature that could destroy cities with its bare claws was still intimidating. High Patriarch, we hope to learn from the Drakmori's wisdom and experience. Wisdom, Vexmore repeated, his scales shifting to a more golden hue. An interesting word. Do you know why the Drakmori have maintained galactic peace for so long? Through strength and deterrence? Through elimination of alternatives. When species became too aggressive, too expansionist, too disruptive, we removed them from the equation. The casual way the ancient dragon described genocide sent chills through the human delegation. But you, Vexmore continued, have chosen a different approach. You strengthen potential threats instead of eliminating them. President Lee chose his words carefully. We believe strong allies are more valuable than eliminated enemies. Even when those allies might eventually challenge your own power, especially then. Challenge drives improvement. Competition makes everyone stronger. Vexmore's great head tilted slightly. You speak like apex predators, but think like something else, something new. Dr. Ryu Taehyung, who had been included in the delegation specifically for this kind of discussion, stepped forward. High Patriarch, may I offer an observation? The dragon's ancient eyes focused on him. Speak, human scholar. Every world produces apex predators, but Earth is unique. We produced an apex predator that eliminated all the others, then chose not to remain alone at the top. Explain. Humans could have remained the only intelligent species on Earth. Instead, we developed other species, dogs, horses, even enhanced dolphins and primates. We created artificial intelligences. We're working to uplift several Earth species to full intelligence. Vexmore's scales shifted through several colors as he processed this information. You deliberately create potential competitors? We create potential partners. The galaxy is vast and dangerous. No single species, no matter how strong, can handle every threat alone. The Drakmori have done so for millennia. Dr. Ryu nodded respectfully. And that's exactly why the galaxy needs both Drakmori and humans. You provide stability through strength. We provide growth through cooperation. Something changed in the Patriarch's expression. You suggest we are complementary rather than competitive. President Lee seized the moment. High Patriarch, the Drakmori have been guardians of galactic civilization for eons, but even guardians need allies they can trust to help carry the burden. The silence stretched for several minutes as Vexmore considered. Finally, his scales settled into a pattern of deep gold mixed with blue, colors that Drakmori scholars interpreted as thoughtful respect. No species has ever offered alliance to the Drakmori as equals, he said slowly. Most seek our protection. Some challenge our authority. None have suggested mutual cooperation. Because none were strong enough to be useful partners, or wise enough to see the benefits, Yoon Hyejin added. And humans are both? We're strong enough to handle problems you don't want to deal with personally, President Lee said. And we're invested in maintaining the galactic stability you've worked so hard to create. Vexmore's laugh was like controlled volcanic rumble. You offer to be junior partners in maintaining galactic order? We offer to be partners, period. Not junior, not senior. Just partners working toward the same goals. The negotiation continued for 3 days. When it concluded, the galaxy had its first formal alliance between two apex predator species recognized as complete equals. But the most important moment came during a private conversation between Vexmore and Dr. Ryu Taehyung. Human scholar, answer me honestly. What is your species' ultimate goal? Dr. Ryu thought carefully before answering. To create a galaxy where intelligence can flourish without fear, where species can develop and grow and become everything they're capable of becoming, even if they eventually become stronger than humans, especially then. The universe is full of wonders we haven't discovered yet, problems we haven't solved yet, questions we haven't even thought to ask yet. We need all the intelligence and creativity and strength we can get. Vexmore's ancient eyes studied the human scientist. You seek to cultivate an ecosystem of intelligence rather than dominating it. Yes, exactly. This is why other apex predators are willing to ally with you. You make them stronger instead of demanding they submit. And this is why the Drakmori are willing to work with us, Dr. Ryu replied. We're not trying to replace your role as guardians. We're trying to help you succeed at it. The announcement of the Drakmori Human Alliance sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. If the ancient dragons accepted humans as equals, then humanity's status as a cooperative apex predator was beyond question. Within weeks, the applications for human alliance or mediation tripled. Species that had been isolated for centuries began reaching out to the galactic community. Ancient conflicts that seemed unsolvable suddenly had new possibilities for resolution. But the most significant change was in the apex predator species themselves. General Morgeth of the emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything in their recorded history. Representatives from hundreds of species gathered at Nexus Prime to discuss the human problem. Ambassador Kethvar stood before the assembled delegates, his blue-gray skin looking pale under the chamber's lights. In 67 days of conflict, the humans systematically destroyed 70% of Admiral Krextai's battle fleet. They did this without conquering territory, claiming resources, or demanding submission. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The insectoid Mortak clicked his mandibles nervously. Explain systematic destruction more precisely. Kethvar activated a holographic display showing the Zarion sector. Red marks indicated destroyed or damaged Kithani installations. The humans didn't attack randomly. They mapped the entire Kithani supply network, then eliminated every component that supported military operations. Fuel depots, ammunition stores, repair facilities, communication relays. But they offered terms? Asked Velnari, the energy being's form shifting through nervous color patterns. They could have destroyed Krextai completely? Yes. When they had the Kithani admiral at their mercy, they offered a truce. No territorial demands, no tribute requirements. Only one condition: no more attacks on human civilians. General Morgeth of the Saurians leaned forward in his seat. This is unusual behavior for apex predators. We typically fight for dominance or resources. Exactly, Kethvar replied. Humans fight to eliminate threats. Once something is no longer threatening, they show no interest in destroying it further. In another part of Nexus Prime, Dr. Han Sujin was explaining human psychology to a group of confused alien scientists. She had arrived 3 days ago as part of Earth's diplomatic mission to address the conflict situation. You must understand, she told the assembled xenopsychologists. Human aggression is defensive, not acquisitive. We don't fight to gain things. We fight to protect what we already have. The Vorthaki scientist Ethron raised a long-fingered hand. But humans eliminated all competing predators on their homeworld. That suggests acquisitive expansion. Dr. Han nodded. It might look that way, but consider the pattern. Humans spread across Earth gradually over tens of thousands of years. As we moved into new territories, we came into conflict with existing predators. The extinctions weren't planned genocide. They were the result of competition for resources. And now? Asked a crystalline being whose name translated as Sharp Mind of the Eternal Facet. Now humans have enough resources. Earth's population is stabilizing. Our expansion into space is voluntary exploration, not desperate migration. We're not running from anything or competing for survival anymore. This concept seemed to puzzle many of the aliens. Most apex predator species continued expanding until they met stronger opposition. The idea of voluntary limits was foreign to them. Meanwhile, in the council chamber, Ambassador O. J. Huan was facing hostile questions from representatives of military species. Your species attacked the Kithani without provocation, accused war leader Jektar of the Militarist Alliance. You destroyed their ships and installations across multiple star systems. O. J. Huan remained calm. The Kithani attacked our civilian colony without warning. They killed over 400 non-combatants, including children. Under any reasonable definition, they provoked the conflict. But your response was disproportionate, Jektar insisted. You destroyed military assets worth billions of credits. We responded proportionally to the threat, O. J. Huan replied. The Kithani demonstrated they could and would attack human civilians. We eliminated their ability to repeat such attacks. And if they rebuild their fleet, Then we'll eliminate it again if they use it to threaten our people. The chamber fell silent. The casual way the human ambassador described destroying an entire military fleet disturbed many of the delegates. But Admiral Krextai himself was also present, speaking to the council via hologram from his remaining flagship. The proud Cathani war leader looked different now, older, more thoughtful. I have fought wars across 17 star systems, he told the assembly. I have defeated species that outnumbered me 10 to 1. I have never encountered an enemy like humanity. Elaborate, requested Morgoth. Krextai's scarred face showed grudging respect. Most apex predators fight for dominance. They want to prove their strength, claim territory, establish hierarchy. Humans fight to solve problems. Problems? Velnari asked. My attack on their colony was a problem to be solved. They solved it by removing my ability to attack again. When I was no longer a problem, they offered alliance instead of destruction. The Cathani admiral paused, choosing his words carefully. I tested their strength, expecting either submission or territorial combat. Instead, they diagnosed the strategic situation, developed a comprehensive solution, and implemented it with perfect coordination. And now? Morgoth asked. Now we are negotiating a mutual defense pact. Humans don't want to rule Cathani territory. They want Cathani military strength protecting both our species from external threats. This statement caused an uproar in the council chamber. Alliance between apex predator species was extremely rare. Usually, only one could dominate any given region of space. In the corridor outside the chamber, Dr. Han Sujin encountered Morgoth during a recess. The Saurian general approached her with what might have been curiosity. Dr. Han, I have a question about human nature. I'll try to answer. Your species eliminated all competing apex predators on your homeworld, but then you stopped expanding aggressively. Why? Dr. Han considered the question. Because we had achieved our objective. Humans aren't naturally aggressive. We're naturally protective. Once our territory was secure and our people were safe, we had no reason to keep fighting. But apex predators always seek more territory, more resources. Do they? Or do they seek security and stability? Maybe what looks like endless expansion is really just repeated responses to perceived threats. Morgoth's yellow eyes studied her face. You suggest that apex predators fight from fear, not ambition? I suggest that humans fight to protect what we value. If other species aren't threatening what we value, we have no quarrel with them. The general was quiet for a long moment. This is a new perspective. Is it? Haven't you ever wanted to just be left alone to live in peace? Something changed in Morgoth's expression. Yes, he admitted. But peace requires strength to maintain it. Exactly. Humans are willing to be very strong when necessary to protect our peace. When the council reconvened, the tone of the debate had shifted. Instead of condemning human aggression, delegates began asking practical questions about cooperation. If humans are truly defensive rather than expansionist, asked Trademaster Velcor of the Commercial Federation, would they be willing to guarantee safe passage for merchant vessels? Ambassador O.J. Wan nodded. Absolutely. Humans believe free trade benefits everyone. We would be happy to help protect commercial shipping. Even from piracy, asked another delegate. Especially from piracy. Pirates threaten civilian vessels. Protecting civilians is something humans take very seriously. Builder Prime Construct of the Engineering Guild raised a technical question. Human military technology appears very effective. Would you share defensive technologies with allied species? We would consider it, O.J. Juan replied. In exchange for technologies that would benefit human development. For the first time in the session, delegates began to see opportunities, instead of threats. The breakthrough came when Ambassador Kethavar made an observation. The Council has always assumed that apex predators must compete with each other. But what if they can cooperate? Impossible, declared Jektar. Apex predators are territorial by nature. Are they? Kethavar challenged. Or do they just need to be certain their territory is secure? If humans guarantee they won't expand into Kithani space and Kithani guarantee they won't attack human civilians, both species get what they really want. Admiral Krextai's image nodded agreement. This is exactly what we have negotiated. Humans help us defend our territory from external threats. We help them protect their colonies from raiders. Both species benefit. Morgoth leaned back in his seat, thinking. A mutual defense pact between apex predators. The combined military strength would be considerable. Consider the implications, Dr. Hahn added from the observation gallery. Apex predators working together instead of fighting each other. The stability this could bring to the galaxy. The session continued for several more hours, but the outcome was becoming clear. Instead of condemning humanity, the Council was beginning to see them as a solution to long-standing problems. When the final vote was taken, the resolution passed by a significant margin. Humanity would be welcomed as a full member of the galactic community, with the same rights and responsibilities as other apex predator species. But more importantly, the Council established a new category: cooperative apex predators. Species that were strong enough to defend themselves but willing to work with others for mutual benefit. As the delegates filed out of the chamber, many were already planning diplomatic missions to Earth. They wanted to explore what other cooperative arrangements might be possible. Admiral Krextai remained on his hologram connection, speaking privately with Ambassador Ojewan. Your species has taught mine something valuable. The attack on New Sol came without warning. Lieutenant Colonel Bei Junho was reviewing supply reports when the alarm started screaming. He dropped his datapad and ran to the command center, his boots echoing in the corridors of the colony's main building. Report, he shouted over the noise. Sergeant Major Wee Sung-ho was already at the tactical display, his face grim. Unknown ships came out of hyperspace 30 minutes ago. They hit the outer settlements first, then moved toward the main colony. Military formation, coordinated attack. Bei Junho studied the display. 12 red dots showed enemy ships in orbit around New Sol. 3 more showed ships that had landed and were deploying ground forces. Casualties? He asked. Still coming in. Outer Farm Station 7 is gone. Mining Complex 3 isn't responding. Estimate 400 civilians dead or missing. The colonel's jaw tightened. New Sol was a peaceful colony, mostly farmers and miners with their families. They had a small security force, but nothing designed to fight off a military assault. Any communication from the attackers? He asked. No, sir. They just started shooting. Through the command center's windows, Bei Junho could see explosions lighting up the night sky. Alien ships were bombing civilian targets with precision strikes. This wasn't random violence. It was systematic destruction designed to terrorize and break resistance. Sir, called communications specialist Park Hyojin from her station. I'm getting fragmentary signals from the orbital defense platform. The attackers are Kithani. I recognize their ship signatures from the intelligence briefings. Bei Junho felt a cold anger settling in his chest. The Kithani were one of the apex predator species the Galactic Evaluation Committee had mentioned. They controlled a large territory on the other side of the galaxy and had a reputation as fierce warriors. Why are they attacking us? Wee Sung-ho asked. The colonel had a suspicion, but he kept it to himself. 3 months ago, humanity had been classified as an apex predator species. Maybe the Kithani wanted to test that classification. Maybe they wanted to see if humans would fight back or submit. They were about to get their answer. Send an emergency signal to Earth Command, Bei Junho ordered. Full tactical data on the attack. Tell them we're implementing Emergency Protocol 7. Park Hyojin looked surprised. Protocol 7 was total war authorization. It meant the colony was fighting for survival and would use any means necessary. Sir, shouldn't we try to negotiate first? Maybe this is a misunderstanding. No, the colonel said firmly. Look at the attack pattern. They're targeting civilians first. This isn't a misunderstanding. This is a test of strength. The ground shook as another explosion hit nearby. Through the tactical display, they could see Kithani ground forces moving toward the main colony. The aliens looked like humanoid lizards, heavily armored and carrying advanced weapons. How long? Until Earth reinforcements arrive? Wee Sung-ho asked. 6 days minimum, Bae Jun-ho replied. We need to survive until then. But survival wasn't what the colonel was planning. As he studied the tactical situation, his mind was already working on something else entirely. The Cathani had made a mistake. They had attacked human civilians. That changed everything. Park, get me a secure line to Captain Song Ariam on the Ghost Tiger. The stealth ship Ghost Tiger had been on patrol in a nearby system when the attack began. Captain Song Ariam appeared on the communication screen, her face showing controlled anger. I see the situation, Colonel. My ship is already moving toward New Seoul. Negative, Captain. I have different orders for you. Song Ariam looked surprised. Sir? Bae Jun-ho leaned closer to the screen. I want you to track the Cathani ships when they leave. Follow them home. The captain's eyes widened with understanding. You want to know where they came from? I want to know everything about them, their bases, their supply lines, their command structure. Everything. That could take weeks, sir. What about the colony? The colony will hold. But when Earth Command arrives, I want them to have targets. This was thinking like an apex predator. The Cathani expected humans to either surrender quickly or fight a desperate defensive battle. They didn't expect humans to immediately start planning a counterattack. The battle for New Seoul lasted 18 hours. The Cathani were skilled warriors, but they fought like traditional apex predators. They struck hard and fast, expecting quick victory through superior force. When the humans didn't collapse immediately, the aliens seemed confused. Bae Jun-ho had served in 3 different conflicts before being posted to New Seoul. He knew how to fight against superior numbers and technology. The key was to make the enemy pay for every advance while protecting your own forces for the counterattack. The human defenders used the colony's infrastructure against the invaders. They collapsed tunnels to channel Cathani movements, used industrial equipment as improvised weapons, and turned every building into a fortress. The Cathani were expecting to fight farmers and miners. Instead, they found themselves fighting soldiers who happened to be farmers and miners. Every human colonist knew how to use weapons and follow military orders. Earth didn't send weak people to establish colonies on the frontier. Sir, the Cathani are pulling back to their ships, Wee Sung-ho reported as dawn broke over the damaged colony. Bae Jun-ho watched the tactical display as enemy forces withdrew to their landing zones. The aliens had taken heavy casualties trying to overrun the human positions. More importantly, they had failed to break human resistance. Think they're leaving? Park Hyojin asked. Maybe, the colonel said. Or maybe they're regrouping for another attack. But the Cathani ships lifted off and moved away from the planet. Long-range sensors showed them jumping to hyperspace, heading back toward their own territory. Victory? Wee Sung-ho asked. Bae Jun-ho shook his head. This was just the beginning. He was right. Over the next 2 weeks, Captain Song Ariam sent regular reports from her tracking mission. The Ghost Tiger's stealth systems allowed her to follow the Cathani raiders back to their staging area, a military base in the Zerion system, 12 jumps away from human space. But Song Ariam didn't stop there. She mapped the entire Cathani supply network in that sector. Fuel depots, ammunition stores, communication relays, even the locations of breeding colonies where young Cathani were raised. Sir, she reported during one of their encrypted communications, I've identified the fleet commander. Admiral Krextai operates from a battle station in the Gamma Zerion asteroid belt. He's got 30 warships under his command. Bae Jun-ho studied the intelligence data Song Ariam had gathered. Any normal species would use this information for defensive planning. They would fortify their own territory and wait for the next attack. Humans did something different. When the Earth fleet arrived at New Seoul, they found detailed target packages for 17 different Cathani installations. Admiral Thompson, the fleet commander, was amazed at the quality of intelligence. Your captain gathered all this in 2 weeks? He asked Bae Jun-ho. Yes, sir. She's very thorough. Admiral Thompson looked at the target list again. Colonel, this isn't defensive intelligence, this is an invasion plan. Yes, sir. The Cathani wanted to test our strength. I think we should show them what human strength really looks like. The counterattack began 3 days later. Instead of a single massive assault, the humans hit multiple Cathani targets simultaneously. They didn't just attack military installations, they went after the entire support network that made Cathani military operations possible. Fuel depots exploded in brilliant fireballs. Communication relays went silent. Supply ships carrying food and ammunition to Cathani fleet simply disappeared. The Cathani had expected either submission or a defensive war. They weren't prepared for humans who fought like a pack of wolves, coordinating attacks across multiple star systems while targeting the enemy's ability to sustain operations. Admiral Krextai found himself fighting an enemy he couldn't understand. Every time he moved ships to protect one target, the humans would hit 3 others. When he tried to trace the attacks back to their source, he found only empty space where human ships had been. How are they doing this? He demanded of his intelligence officers. They're a young species with primitive technology. How are they defeating our forces? The answer was simple, though Krextai didn't understand it yet. Humans didn't just fight with weapons and ships. They fought with patience, planning, and the absolute determination to eliminate threats completely. The Cathani thought like individual predators competing for territory. Humans thought like a pack working together to bring down dangerous prey. After 6 weeks of steady losses, Admiral Krextai finally understood what he was facing. The humans weren't trying to win territory or capture resources. They were systematically destroying his ability to threaten them ever again. For the first time in his military career, Krextai felt something he had never experienced before. He felt hunted. The moment came when his flagship was alone, separated from its escort vessels by human tactical maneuvering. Krextai found himself staring at 3 human warships on his tactical display. He was outnumbered and outgunned, but instead of destroying his ship, the humans opened a communication channel. "Admiral Krextai," came a voice speaking perfect Cathani. "This is Admiral Thompson of the Earth Fleet. We need to talk." The Cathani admiral stared at the screen in confusion. His enemy had him at their mercy. Nexus Prime was unlike anything the human delegation had ever seen. The space station was enormous, built in the shape of a perfect sphere with hundreds of docking ports. Ships from dozens of different species came and went constantly. Some looked like crystalline structures that glowed with inner light. Others were purely mechanical, covered in weapons and armor. A few seemed to be alive, pulsing and breathing like giant space creatures. Engineer Kim Do-hyun pressed his face against the transport shuttle's window as they approached. "Look at the size of that thing," he whispered to diplomat Choi Min-seo, who sat beside him. "It must be 50 kilometers across." Choi Min-seo was trying to stay calm, but her hands shook slightly as she reviewed her notes. She had been chosen to represent humanity in these talks because of her skill at negotiation. But how do you negotiate with aliens when you don't know what they want? Captain Lee Hyun sat across from them, wearing his best dress uniform. 3 months had passed since first contact with the Vorthaki. In that time, Earth's governments had worked frantically to choose the right people for this meeting. The future of humanity might depend on how well they performed in the next few days. "Remember," Lee Hyun said as their shuttle docked with the station, "we're here to be evaluated. They want to understand what kind of species we are. Just be yourselves, but be careful. We don't know what they consider dangerous." The airlock opened and they stepped into Nexus Prime. The first thing that hit them was the smell. It wasn't bad, just alien, like ozone mixed with flowers and something metallic. The air felt thicker than Earth normal, and gravity was slightly heavier. Ambassador Kethvar was waiting for them, along with 2 other aliens the humans had never seen before. One was insectoid, about the size of a human but with 6 arms and compound eyes that seemed to look in all directions at once. The other was reptilian, with scales that shifted color from green to brown, and yellow eyes with vertical pupils. "Welcome to Nexus Prime," Kethvar said through the translation devices they all wore now. "I present Hive Mind Mortok of the Insectoid Collective and General Morgoth of the Saurian Republic. They are part of the evaluation committee. Kim Do-yoon bowed politely to both aliens. Mortak's head tilted at an odd angle, studying him. Morgeth simply stared with those predator eyes. "You are the builders?" Mortak asked in a buzzing voice that sounded like many voices speaking at once. "Your structures are crude but functional. Interesting problem-solving approaches. And you are the warriors?" Morgeth asked in a deep, rumbling voice. "You carry no visible weapons, yet Kethvar says you claim apex status." Choi Min-seo stepped forward smoothly. "We are many things. Builders, warriors, explorers, thinkers. Humans adapt to whatever role is needed." This seemed to interest all three aliens. They led the humans through the station, showing them different areas where various species lived and worked. The humans saw creatures that looked like living crystals, others that appeared to be made of liquid metal, and some that defied any description. "Each species has found their place in the galactic community," Kethvar explained. "The builders construct our stations and cities. The traders manage commerce. The warriors provide security. The thinkers solve complex problems." "What about the apex predators you mentioned?" Lee Hyun asked. "What role do they play?" The three aliens exchanged what might have been glances. "Apex predators are different," Morgeth said finally. "They do not serve roles. They define territories." They were taken to a conference room where several other alien species waited. Kim Do-hyun counted at least 8 different types of beings. Some were clearly peaceful. They had soft features and gentle movements. Others looked dangerous with sharp teeth, claws, or other weapons built into their bodies. "We will now begin the evaluation," announced a new voice. The speaker was unlike anything the humans had seen yet, a creature that seemed to be made of pure energy, constantly shifting between different colors. "I am Velnari of the Energy Collective. We will test your species' responses to various stimuli to determine your classification." The first test was simple. Different aliens approached the humans and tried various forms of communication. Some used sounds, others used lights or scents. The humans responded politely to each attempt, learning what they could. "Adaptive communication," noted Mortak, "not locked into single sensory mode." The second test was more challenging. The insectoid Mortak began releasing pheromones into the air. Kim Do-yoon could smell something sweet and cloying. He felt a strange urge to agree with everything the alien said. "You will find our proposals very reasonable," Mortak buzzed. "Humans should accept junior status in galactic affairs. You are new and inexperienced." Kim Do-yoon felt the chemical influence, trying to change his thinking. But his engineering training had taught him to analyze problems logically. He recognized what was happening. "That's an interesting biochemical approach," he said calmly. "But human brains don't respond to pheromone control the way you expect. We evolved resistance to many chemical influences." Mortak's compound eyes focused on him more intently. "Resistance to hive mind integration." Noted. Next, the ethereal Velnari attempted something different. The air around the humans began to shimmer, and they felt pressure inside their minds. It was like someone was trying to read their thoughts or plant new ideas. Choi Min-seo had trained in meditation and mental discipline. She built walls in her mind, compartmentalizing her thoughts. "We appreciate your interest in human psychology," she said, "but our minds are private. We don't share thoughts involuntarily." The energy being pulsed with surprise. Psychic resistance. Unusual for a young species. Finally, General Morgeth stepped forward. He was large for a reptilian, probably 8 feet tall, and covered in thick scales. His yellow eyes fixed on Lee Hyun, and he made a deep growling sound. His body language was clearly aggressive, claws extended, posture threatening. Most species would have backed down immediately. The Saurians were known as one of the galaxy's most successful military civilizations. But Lee Hyun had been a soldier before becoming a ship captain. He recognized the challenge for what it was. Instead of submitting or backing away, Lee Hyun met the alien's stare directly. He didn't threaten back, but he didn't show fear either. He simply stood his ground with calm confidence. "You're testing dominance behavior," Lee Hyun said quietly. trying to see if humans will submit to intimidation. Morgeth stared at him for a long moment, then something changed in his expression. His claws retracted and he stepped back slightly. Interesting, he rumbled. No submission, no counter-aggression, just steady assessment. The other aliens began talking among themselves in their various languages. The translation devices couldn't keep up with all the different conversations, but the humans caught fragments. Not standard prey response, shows no pack hierarchy submission, evaluates threats instead of reacting. Kethvar approached the humans. We need to discuss your species' history in more detail, specifically, your relationship with other life forms on your planet. They spent the next several hours in detailed interviews. Kim Do-hyun explained how humans had spread across Earth, adapting to every environment from deserts to Arctic regions. Choi Min-seo described human social structures and how conflicts were resolved. Lee Hyun talked about human exploration and expansion into space. But it was when they discussed Earth's extinct species that the aliens became most interested. Mammoths, cave bears, giant ground sloths. Dr. Park's recorded data listed dozens of species. Most of the large predators and megafauna went extinct after humans spread across the planet. Did humans hunt these creatures? Morgeth asked. Some of them, Lee Hyun admitted. Early humans were hunter-gatherers. They hunted for food and to eliminate threats. All of them? Velnari pressed. Your species eliminated all competing apex predators? Kim Do-hyun tried to soften the impact. It wasn't intentional genocide. Climate change played a role. Human expansion just happened to coincide with natural extinctions. But Morgeth was staring at the humans with new understanding. No, he said slowly. I have seen this pattern before. On my own world, before we became spacefaring. One species rises to dominance by systematically eliminating competition. The room fell silent. All the aliens were now looking at the humans differently. You didn't just survive on a dangerous world, Morgeth continued. You conquered it. Every other large predator on your planet is either extinct or domesticated. That is not coincidence. That is systematic apex dominance. Choi Min-seo felt the need to defend her species. But we also preserve species. We have zoos, nature reserves, conservation programs. Because you choose to, Morgeth said. That is the mark of a true apex predator. You eliminate what threatens you and preserve what serves your purposes. The general turned to the other committee members. I have fought wars across a dozen star systems. I have seen species that never knew defeat until they met superior force. But I have never seen a species that looks at everything as either ally, tool, or target to eliminate. What are you saying? Lee Hyun asked. Morgeth's yellow eyes met his. I am saying that your species has the same look in their eyes that I see in my own reflection. The look of something that has never been prey and never expects to be. The evaluation committee huddled together for. Captain Lee Hyun stared at the massive alien ship through the viewport of the Taeguk. The vessel looked nothing like human ships. Its surface was smooth and curved, almost organic, with a pale blue glow coming from patterns that looked like veins across its hull. It was 3 times larger than his exploration ship. Sir, they're sending another message, said Communications Officer Yu Min-soo from his station. Same as before, they want to talk. Lee Hyun nodded slowly. 3 days ago, his ship had detected this alien vessel near Jupiter's moon Europa. At first, both ships had simply watched each other from a distance. Then yesterday, the aliens had started sending signals. Mathematical sequences, prime numbers, basic physics equations. The universal language of intelligence. Tell Dr. Park to get ready, Lee Hyun said. We're going to answer them. Dr. Park Ji-won was the ship's xenobiologist, though until now she had only studied the possibility of alien life. She had never expected to meet actual aliens. When Lee Hyun called her to the bridge, she was already prepared with her translation equipment and recording devices. Are you ready for this? Lee Hyun asked her. Park Ji-won looked at the alien ship on the main screen. She felt nervous but also excited. This was the moment humanity had dreamed about for centuries. Yes, sir. Let's make history. The first communication was simple. The aliens sent mathematical formulas. The humans sent back their own equations. Both sides proved they were intelligent beings. Then the aliens did something unexpected. They sent coordinates for a meeting point between the two ships. They want to meet face to face, Dr. Park said, studying the message. Or whatever they have for faces. 2 hours later, a small shuttle separated from the alien ship. Lee Hyun watched it approach through his binoculars. It was the same smooth, organic design as the larger ship. No sharp edges anywhere. It looked like it had been grown rather than built. The shuttle docked with the Taeguk at the main airlock. Lee Hyun, Dr. Park, and Security Chief Nam Ji-hoon stood ready to greet their first alien visitors. The airlock cycled, and the door opened. 3. Aliens stepped into the human ship. They were tall, maybe 7 feet high, with long arms and legs. Their skin was gray-blue and looked soft, almost like dolphin skin. They had large heads with big dark eyes that seemed very intelligent. They wore simple robes made of material that shimmered like water. The center alien stepped forward and made a gesture with its long-fingered hands. It spoke in a voice that sounded like music mixed with wind. Dr. Park activated her translation device. After a few seconds, it began converting the alien speech into Korean and English. "I am Ambassador Kethvar of the Vorthaki people," the alien said. "We welcome you to the galactic community." Lee Hyun bowed slightly, a gesture of respect. "I am Captain Lee Hyun of the human vessel Taeguk. This is Dr. Park Ji-won, our scientist, and Chief Nam Ji-hoon, our security officer. We are honored to meet you." Kethvar's large eyes studied the humans carefully. "We have traveled far to meet your species. The Council of Worlds sent us when your signals were detected. We evaluate new species to understand their nature." Dr. Park stepped forward. "We're very interested to learn about other intelligent life. How many species are there in this galactic community?" "Many thousands," Kethvar replied. "Some are builders, some are thinkers, some are traders. Each species has its place in the great community." As they talked, Dr. Park noticed something interesting. The other two aliens kept looking around nervously. They stayed close to their ambassador and seemed ready to run at any moment. But Kethvar appeared calm and confident. "Would you like to see our ship?" Lee Hyun offered. Kethvar agreed, and the humans gave the aliens a tour of the Taeguk. They showed them the bridge, the laboratories, the living quarters. The aliens were very interested in human technology, but they also seemed surprised by some things. In the laboratory, Dr. Park showed them examples of Earth life, pictures of animals, plants, and microscopic organisms. The aliens studied everything carefully. "Your world has much diversity," Kethvar observed. "Many different forms of life." "Yes," Dr. Park said proudly. "Earth has millions of species, from tiny bacteria to huge whales. We humans share our planet with many other creatures." Kethvar looked at a picture of a lion hunting zebras. "These creatures with the large teeth, they are predators?" "Yes, that's a lion. It hunts other animals for food." The alien studied the picture for a long time. "And humans? Where do humans fit in this food chain?" Dr. Park smiled. "We're at the top. Humans are apex predators. We don't have any natural enemies that hunt us." Something changed in Kethvar's expression. His large eyes focused more intently on Dr. Park's face. "Apex predators," he repeated slowly. "Well, we were," Dr. Park continued. "Early humans hunted mammoths, cave bears, saber-toothed cats, all the big dangerous animals. We're not just scavengers or plant eaters. We're hunters." Kethvar was very quiet for several minutes. He looked carefully at Dr. Park's eyes, then at Lee Hyun's eyes, then at Nam Ji-hoon's eyes. The other two aliens moved even closer to their ambassador. "This is interesting," Kethvar finally said. "Most species we meet are either prey type or pack type. Prey type species are gentle and try to please everyone. Pack type species work together but follow leaders. But apex predator species are rare." "How rare?" Lee Hyun asked. In 50,000 years of galactic civilization, we have found perhaps 12 true apex predator species. Dr. Park felt excited. So we're special? Kethvar looked at her again, with that intense stare. Perhaps. But apex predators are also dangerous. They do not submit easily. They do not fear other creatures. They look at everything as either food, competition, or tools to use. That sounds harsh, Li Hyun said. Humans aren't like that. We cooperate with others. We help weaker species. Do you? Kethvar asked. Or do you simply protect what you consider yours? The question hung in the air. Dr. Park thought about it. Humans did protect pets, livestock, and endangered species. But was that cooperation or was that just managing resources? I think, she said slowly, humans are more complex than simple predators. Yes, we can be dangerous, but we also choose not to be dangerous most of the time. Kethvar nodded. This will be important for the Council to understand. They will want to study your species carefully before deciding your place in the galactic community. The aliens stayed for several more hours. They asked many questions about human history, human culture, and human technology. They were especially interested in human wars and how conflicts were resolved. When it was time for them to leave, Kethvar made a formal invitation. The Council would like to meet with representatives of humanity. There is a neutral station called Nexus Prime, where new species are evaluated. Will you come? Li Hyun looked at Dr. Park and Nam Ji-hoon. This was beyond his authority to decide, but it was also the most important moment in human history. We will need to contact our government, he said, but I believe humanity would be honored to meet the Council. After the aliens left, the crew of the Taeguk sat in stunned silence. They had just made first contact with an alien species, but something about the encounter felt different than they had expected. Did you notice how the other two aliens acted? Nam Ji-hoon asked. They were afraid of us. Dr. Park nodded, and Kethvar kept staring at our eyes, like he was trying to figure something out. Li Hyun looked out at the alien ship, which was now moving away from Jupiter. He said apex predators are dangerous. Maybe they're worried about what kind of species we really are. Dr. Park thought about all the questions the aliens had asked, about hunting, about wars, about how humans had spread across their planet and eliminated competition. Maybe they should be worried, she said quietly. The three humans watched the alien ship disappear into hyperspace, heading back to report to their council. Soon humanity would have to prove what kind of species they really were. Li Hyun began composing his report to Earth Command. How do you explain to your entire species that they might be something the galaxy fears? Outside the viewport, Jupiter continued its ancient orbit, unaware that everything had just changed for the small blue planet orbiting a yellow star not far away. Commander Nam Yunwoo stood on the bridge of the Unity, watching the most incredible sight in galactic history unfold before him. 50 ships from 12 different species hung in formation around his command vessel. Cathani battle cruisers with their aggressive angular designs flew alongside elegant Drakmori bioships that looked like living creatures. Saurian heavy destroyers worked in coordination with crystalline Velnari energy vessels that glowed like captured stars. Sir, reported Tactical Officer Lee Sujin, all ships report ready for hyperspace jump to the target zone. The target zone was the Andromeda interface, the point where extragalactic invaders had first broken through into their galaxy 3 months ago. The Void Swarm, as they were called, consumed everything in their path. Entire star systems vanished into their dark ships, leaving nothing behind but empty space. This was the first time in galactic history that multiple apex predator species had assembled a joint military force. The Guardian Council had been tested by minor threats before, but nothing like this. Commander, came a voice through the communication system. Admiral Krextai of the Kithini appeared on the main screen, his scarred features showing grim determination. My ships are ready to engage. The Void Swarm will learn why apex predators are not prey. A second channel opened, showing General Morgeth of the Saurians. Human Coordinator, my forces await your tactical assessment. Nam Yunwoo felt the weight of responsibility. He wasn't the strongest commander present or the most experienced, but the Guardian Council had chosen him to coordinate this fleet because humans had proven they could think beyond individual species' interests. All ships prepare for jump. Remember, we're not just representing our individual species today. We're showing the galaxy what apex predators can accomplish when they work together. The jump to hyperspace was perfectly synchronized. 50 ships from 12 species entered hyperspace as one unit and emerged at the interface in perfect formation. Nam Yunwoo had spent months drilling these maneuvers, teaching alien commanders to think like a pack instead of individual predators. What they found at the interface was worse than anyone had imagined. The Void Swarm ships were massive, each one the size of a small moon. They were perfectly black, absorbing all light and energy that touched them. Hundreds of these vessels moved through space like a plague, systematically dismantling everything they encountered. Tactical analysis, Nam Yunwoo ordered. Sir, Lee, Sujin reported. The swarm ships appear to be converting matter directly into energy. They're not just destroying, they're consuming. Everything they touch becomes part of their fleet. This was why no single species could stop them. Traditional, military tactics were useless against an enemy that grew stronger by consuming your attacks. Fleet Admiral Shin Yunho to all ships, came a voice from Earth Command. The Admiral's face appeared on screens throughout the multi-species fleet. Intelligence suggests the swarm has a distributed consciousness. No central command structure. We can target. Admiral Krextai's voice crackled over the communication network. Then we destroy them all at once. Negative, Nam Yunwoo said firmly. That plays to their strength. They want us to attack directly so they can consume our energy and use it against us. Then what do you suggest, human coordinator? General Morgeth asked. Nam Yunwoo had been studying the tactical problem for weeks. The Void Swarm was like a disease. It grew by consuming healthy tissue. But what if, instead of fighting the disease directly, you change the environment to make it impossible for the disease to survive? We don't fight them, he said. We starve them. The battle plan was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of direct assault, the multi-species fleet began a complex dance around the Void Swarm. Kaithani ships used their superior speed to herd swarm vessels away from energy sources. Drakmori bioships released specialized organisms that interfered with the swarm's matter conversion process. Saurian heavy weapons created gravitational distortions that prevented swarm ships from feeding on stellar energy. Human coordination vessels like the Unity managed the entire operation, ensuring that 12 different species with 12 different fighting styles worked as a single, coordinated organism. It's working, reported Dr. Park Jin-hyuk from the science station. Swarm energy levels are dropping across the entire fleet. They're beginning to cannibalize each other. The Void Swarm had never encountered organized resistance like this. They were designed to fight species that attack directly, allowing the swarm to consume and grow stronger. But the Guardian Council fleet was fighting like apex predators, patient, coordinated, and absolutely relentless. Instead of feeding the swarm with energy attacks, they were systematically eliminating every energy source the swarm could reach. Solar collectors blocked starlight. Gravitational generators created null zones where matter couldn't be converted to energy. Specialized ships released clouds of particles that interfered with swarm feeding processes. The battle lasted 6 days. Not 6 days of continuous fighting, but 6 days of patient, methodical starvation tactics. The Guardian Council fleet never attacked the swarm directly. They simply made it impossible for the swarm to feed. On the 6th day, the Void Swarm began, collapsing in on itself. Without external energy to consume, the swarm ships started consuming each other in a desperate attempt to survive. Within hours, hundreds of moon-sized vessels had reduced themselves to a few dozen smaller craft. Now, Nam Yunwoo ordered. The final assault was swift and decisive. 12 species attacked the weakened swarm remnants simultaneously. Kaithani plasma cannons, Drakmori energy beams, Saurian kinetic weapons, and human antimatter torpedoes struck as one coordinated barrage. The last Void Swarm ship disappeared in a flash of light that was visible from several star systems away. Victory, Admiral Krextai announced over the fleet communications. The extragalactic threat is eliminated, but Nam Yunwoo was already thinking about what came next. All ships begin search and rescue operations. There may be survivors from systems the swarm attacked. This was the difference between apex predators fighting individually and apex predators working as a pack. Individual predators stopped when the threat was eliminated. Pack predators immediately began caring for their territory and protecting the vulnerable. The rescue operations continued for 2 weeks. The Guardian Council fleet saved millions of beings from dozens of species whose worlds had been partially consumed by the Void Swarm. More importantly, they began immediate reconstruction efforts to help these survivors rebuild their civilizations. When Fleet Admiral Shin Yunho arrived to debrief the operation, he found something unprecedented in military history. "Commander Nam," he said during their private meeting, 12 species from different star systems are requesting permanent alliance agreements. They want to join the Guardian Council as protected members. "That's a lot of new responsibility," Nam Yunwoo replied. "It gets better. Representatives from the Andromeda Galaxy have sent a delegation asking for our help with similar threats in their region." Nam Yunwoo felt overwhelmed. A year ago, humanity had been a single-planet species just discovering they weren't alone in the universe. Now they were coordinating galactic defense operations. "Sir, I don't think humanity is prepared for that level of responsibility." Admiral Shin smiled. "Commander, humanity isn't doing this alone anymore. We're part of something bigger now." 3 months later, Ambassador Park Minho stood before the reformed Galactic Council to deliver what would become known as the New Balance Address. The council chamber had been expanded to accommodate representatives from over 1,000 species. What had once been a small gathering of established civilizations was now a true galactic parliament. "Fellow beings of the galaxy," Park Minho began. "1 year ago, humanity was classified as an apex predator species. Today, we address you as gardeners of galactic civilization." The chamber was completely silent. Representatives from species that had been enemies for millennia sat side by side, all focused on the human ambassador's words. Every apex predator knows the look in human eyes because it's the same as theirs. The look of something that has never been prey, never expects to be prey. But what makes humans different is what we do with that strength. Park Minho gestured to the mixed assembly. "Look around this chamber. Former enemies now working together. Isolated species now part of a larger community. Ancient conflicts resolved through cooperation instead of conquest. This is not human dominance," he continued. "This is human gardening. We take the wild ecosystem of galactic civilization and help it grow into something more beautiful, more diverse, more resilient." High Patriarch Vexmore rose to speak, his ancient form commanding immediate attention. "Ambassador Park speaks truth. For 100,000 years, the Drakmori maintained peace through strength alone. But strength without growth is mere stagnation." Admiral Krextai's image appeared on the chamber's screens. "The Kythani learned that humans don't fight to dominate, they fight to protect, and they extend that protection to any species willing to contribute to galactic stability." General Morgeth stood from his section. "Apex predators working together have proven stronger than apex predators fighting alone. The Void Swarm would have consumed half the galaxy if we had faced them individually." Ambassador Park nodded to